Hi everybody, and welcome back to Every Stitch Counts. My name is Charlotte, and I'm a knitter and a maker here in the Seattle, Washington area, and I live in the city with my dog, Lady. On this channel, as most of you probably know by now, but I like to focus on knitting and things that I make and my process, what I like, don't like about that entire process. Yeah, the craft and everything it includes. I just love the whole process of knitting and making clothing and really all the different moving parts that go into making a piece of clothing. I just really love it. And that's what we talk about here. In the past on these episodes, I've done pretty classic, I would say, like podcast style videos. They're longer, and I talk about usually anything that I am working on, something I've finished, things that I buy, and things that I hope to be making in the future. But I think moving forward, I want to try splitting them apart a little bit. When I think about the podcasters and the videos that I really enjoy watching, oh my gosh, girl. I usually, if I'm being completely honest, I will watch primarily what they make. I want to see the finished thing. I want to see whatever it is that they've made, and I want to see the finished product. And I tend to skip around during those videos to get to the parts that I like. And so I thought, moving forward, I would just try separating them a little bit and filming like a monthly recap of everything that I have finished, if I've finished anything at all. And then having a separate video for what I'm currently working on, kind of how it's going, maybe things that I've bought will also be included in that video. Future plans, all things related to the making. And I think for me that will just work well. The videos will be a bit shorter, a bit easier to get out, and just makes a bit more sense for me. So we're gonna give that a go, and I wanted to start things off strong by talking about my most recently finished object, which is my Harju sweater. So some of you may have heard about this already, but I did a test knit recently. Can't even remember when I started this at this point. I think it was probably 2-ish months ago. I did a test knit, and it was a very impulsive decision, not one that I planned really at all. I kind of just saw the picture online and I thought, I gotta do that. And then I bought the yarn, and here we are. So this is her. This is my Harju sweater. It's a bit darker in real life, but it's this really nice tan color. I want to say we were given 4.5 to 5 weeks to do it, which I've only done one other test knit, so this is my second test knit that I've done, and can't say that I love the 4-week timeline. I think anything less than 6, at least for me, to participate in a test knit is just not enough time. I'm not a full-time, despite what some may think, I'm not a full-time social media person. I don't do this for work. I'm not in the knitting world for work. I don't make money from patterns or anything like that. I have a 9 to 5. I have a dog. I have a life. And I knit a lot for the amount of time that I have, but 4 weeks is it's kind of pushing it to get a whole sweater finished, and especially one that is this large and has all over cabling. I mean, even though this was an Aran weight sweater, I was definitely a bit behind, and I had to message the designer and be like, hey, I'm not gonna necessarily finish this on time, and she was like, it's totally fine. Just get the big important pieces done, and it'll be fine. But kind of wanted to go through, all the different parts and moving pieces of making this sweater and talk to you all about it, so that you can decide if you want to make this, if you like it, or hopefully maybe it'll give you some ideas for how to combine yarns and give you a little bit of insight into how I do that when I'm thinking about a pattern. So the first thing I want to talk about is actually the yarn itself. I used a combination of two different yarns for this, and one was a 100% DK weight alpaca yarn, this one right here. And again, it's a bit washed out because it's so sunny outside, but this is like a slightly darker than it is appearing on camera. And this is a worsted spun alpaca. It is probably 3-ply, I'm thinking, based on, yeah, what does it say? I think it even says 3-ply. Yes, 3-ply. I bought this at the Frederick, Maryland Sheep and Wool Festival like over 2 years ago at this point, or maybe, yeah, I think almost 3 years ago I bought this. And I had a ton of it, like 1,600 yards. I didn't know what to do with it, and it just sat on my shelves. And when I saw this cable sweater pattern, I thought, that could work with that if I held it with something else, which is where this comes in. And this is the toque sock wool, which is primarily wool, but it also has some polyamide in it. And I'd never used anything from this brand before, but it's a fingering weight woolen spun 2-ply yarn. So I didn't have any like specific second yarn that I wanted to use to hold double with this. I did kind of take into account a couple things that I want to talk to you about. So this is an Aran weight pattern. This is a DK weight yarn. As a base, just of knowledge, I knew that if I had a fingering weight yarn, it would probably get me pretty close to an Aran weight yarn held together. So I had that as a base going into it. I kind of just was looking at this when I was thinking about which yarn to pick, and I was like, okay, it's worsted spun, it's DK weight, it's alpaca, which tells me that this is going to be much denser and much heavier than maybe a normal wool yarn would be in the same like specs. So if I was to have a DK weight woolen spun yarn that was not alpaca, say it was merino, it probably would be much fluffier than this and much less drapey. I mean, if it was merino woolen spun DK, it would be like air, and it wouldn't have much drape to it. It would be very stiff and structured. And so I knew that I wanted to balance out the drapiness of the alpaca. And so something with more structure that's going to have less drape is always going to be woolen spun and a bit rougher. And so that's kind of what I was going for. Initially, I was thinking about doing the Rauma because that's woolen spun, not as drapey, but it's pretty like airy and light, and it wasn't going to add a ton of weight to the overall sweater. I originally went into my local yarn shop to try to find something. Came up dry, color-wise, not necessarily like yarn-wise. There was definitely more than enough yarn options, but matching this color was actually like low-key kind of hard. I didn't really think too deeply about it. I mean, I knew my first choice was going to be to have a woolen spun yarn, but I knew that, if I can't find that, I just need to find something that matches the color so that I can start. A couple of the options that I came across that I would have been like more than happy to use was the Rauma, the toque sock, and then what is the Sandnes Garn one? The Sunday yarn, I think? Not the double Sunday, this the single Sunday. It's their fingering weight option of whatever their like standard wool base is. There was also some options from Jameson and Smith, but again, like I just wasn't really finding the color that I really liked, and this was going to be my closest option. I was a bit concerned that the polyamide content in it was going to make the whole thing a bit too scratchy and like artificial feeling, because woolen spun yarn can already kind of have it's not scratchy, I would say, but it's definitely has a tendency to sometimes not be soft. Like it's not going to make you itch, but it's not like, ooh, that's so soft. It just kind of feels rough on your skin. And I'm happy to report that Since knitting it up, and especially since blocking it, the two colors of the yarn have really like blended and meshed together nicely. The alpaca has really bloomed in this situation. So as you can see, like it still has a decent amount of drape, and you'll see in the try-on clip how drapey it really is. It's freaking heavy. I haven't weighed it yet, but it's like, it's real heavy. And that's definitely coming from the alpaca. But I think even for how like heavy it is, it feels pretty solid. Like it doesn't feel like it's pulling. It doesn't feel like the stitches are too loose. Like it just feels like it's that heavy because of the actual weight of the fabric being that thick. I would totally recommend the toque sock wool. I definitely, I thought it was a pretty good deal too for how much yardage you get. And I could totally see myself using it in a similar application in the future. As far as the alpaca yarn goes, I went through a phase where I was buying a ton of 100% alpaca, and while I have used it, or I'm working on using it, I don't think I will find myself in the future doing that a lot again. I'm kind of over it a little bit. I think in certain applications, it will be great. It is great. I mean, alpaca is an amazing material, but I like to make sweaters and clothing items, and alpaca as a standalone fiber, I guess I just haven't really found like what I really enjoy making with it. I think I got lucky with this sweater, but I have another sweater. It's the November jacket or October jacket. It's whatever that big brioche jacket is by Petite Knit. I have that, and that alpaca is much, it sheds way more than this will. And I love that sweater. It took me forever to make. It was an absolute beast, but I don't wear it a whole lot, if I'm being completely honest. It sheds too much, is so hot. Like, I don't think people push this point home enough, just how freaking warm alpaca is. And I live in a cold state. Like, it is below 60 degrees 70% of the year. Okay? Like, it's cold, and it's wet cold. And even alpaca, there's something about it where I just feel like I am sweating when I'm wearing it. Like, I don't find it as breathable as wool sweaters are, and I don't think I like that, really. This I think will be different. I mean, I think this is so baggy that it alleviates some of the lack of breathability that I feel, but that's just my take on the yarn itself. But let me know in the comments like what your thoughts are on this. I have one more sweaters quantity of 100% alpaca that I need to use. I'm not really very inspired at the moment to use it. I don't really know what I'm going to use it for. So let me know what you think. If there's been any patterns that you feel like alpaca has done particularly well in and that you really like wearing, let me know. The actual design itself of this was made in a size small, which is hard to believe because this is literally huge. I haven't measured exactly, but I want to say that this has like, gosh, it's probably got like 6 to 8 inches of positive ease, which is a lot of positive ease for me. But again, the design itself, I think, lends it to being so big and oversized. I didn't modify this pattern at all. I thought about maybe changing the amount that I decreased in the arms, but as I was trying it on, I was like, I think this actually does need the tapering in the sleeves. Like, it was so big. But as you can see, the design is a very simple raglan construction. You start at the neckband, knit down, do some short rows, build the back shaping, and then you join in the round and you do your increases and you do your raglan, and then you split for sleeves. The body has no shaping at all. You just straighten it until you get to the hem, and then your sleeves are also very easy. You have, I think I did 7 or 8 decreases over the course of doing the whole sleeve, and then you do the hems. And the hemming on it is all Italian bind off, which I think looks really nice. This chunky fabric. I think doing a different bind off with something this thick, like you'd really be able to see it a lot more. So I know people think the Italian bind off is really finicky. I agree with you, it is finicky, but I don't think you can beat like how it looks. It just looks so good. So I'm totally for that. The only thing, if I was to make this again, or if you were going to make it, I would suggest you maybe do, is the neckband is knit in 1 needle size. So it's knit, I don't even remember what size to be honest, but it's knit in the same size. I would probably add an inch to the neckband, and I would start the top of it in a bigger needle size. Like it bows out like this because I blocked it this way. I probably would just increase my needle size a size or 2 so that it lays a bit nicer, you know? And because I hate it when I make a turtleneck and the neck itself has no give, like it truly is just a tube that doesn't move, and it just is like shrunk up to my neck. I kind of like my turtlenecks to have a bit easier of like not so tight. I don't like them so tight because, again, this sweater is so thick that it just is going to be too hot sometimes. So I aggressively blocked this to make it fall a bit nicer. The other thing I also hate, and I should have just known this and done it to begin with, I should have just increased the needle size, but the other thing I hate is when you do a turtleneck and you fold it over and you block it and then you're wearing it, and the turtleneck does this. It like shrinks up on itself, and then you can see the bottom of it, like you can see the edge, opposed to it laying nicely like this. One of my biggest pet peeves when it comes to turtlenecks. I can't stand it. And usually the only way I've been able to remedy that is by making them with the increased needle size, the top, so the fabric has more room to like move out, and to make them like an inch or 2 longer than the recommendation in the pattern. So who knows, in the future I might rip this neck out and remake it because it just is such a big pet peeve of mine. But if you also get annoyed by that, that's just a little tidbit for you for how you can fix that. The whole process though of making this sweater was like really enjoyable and really easy. All of the cabling is done pretty much every 2 rounds. So there's actually not a lot of like traditional, well, traditional, what am I even saying? The cables are either done every 2 rows or every 4 rows. So it's really easy to keep track of what you're doing. And because the gauge is bigger, it's easier to see like where you've increased, where you've decreased. And so I found it really easy just to be like knitting along and then to be able to look at the pattern and think, like this is my next increase, or I'm increasing to this amount of stitches or whatever it is. It's really easy to follow. I love cables for that reason. I find them to be so easy to like learn how to read them based on the pattern, and so you have to reference the actual written pattern way less, which I love. But in general, like the construction of this is super simple. There's really minimal shaping on it. I know in my last video I kind of was like, oh, I hate that patterns like have like really minimal shaping. I think there's a time and place for a big, unstructured, squishy, oversized sweater, and to me, this is that like application. I think the important thing is like knowing your body and knowing what looks good on you. With a sweater like this, I feel like it works. Like it reminds me of those big fisherman style sweaters that are just like so big, like you're borrowing your grandpa's sweater type of thing. I feel like this sweater would fit most men in my family, actually. So you know, you don't necessarily have to make this for a woman, even though it's like technically a woman's pattern. You probably could just make this for a dude if you wanted to. But yeah, I thought the process of making it was really easy and really simple. If you've done raglan sweaters in the past, if you've done minimal cabling in the past, this will be a cinch for you and totally within your wheelhouse. All in all, I love it. It's great. What's not to like? It's big, it's squishy, it's a classic color. I think it looks good on me. I mean, let me know in the comments officially if it does or doesn't. I really liked this, and I would totally recommend the pattern. I haven't made of any of her other designs, but they all look cute. I think that this would fit a wide range of people. I think it's really easy to modify, which I'm always a big fan of. Some easy things you could do to modify this if you wanted was to, like, say, for example, you just are petite and the smallest size is going to be too big for you. You could just stop doing your increases like way sooner. I think that would be totally fine. The only thing you would want to make sure that you incorporate is both complete front panels, so of the cables. So like when you're looking at the pattern and you're looking at the increases, say for example you get to, where would it be on this? Like you get here on the chart. If you were to stop there and split for sleeves, you've essentially removed like three and a half whole inches of yoke depth. So when you're thinking about shortening the yoke, you just want to keep that in mind. You want to make sure you get through the actual pattern portion. And then the only thing you're going to be really changing with that is your thickness of the sleeves and then the thickness of the body. My final thoughts on this are that I would totally recommend you make this pattern. I thought that it was really fun. I just really enjoyed it. I'm excited to try and style it. If you have any styling tips, let me know in the comments, because as you probably would have seen in the clips that I share, this thing is just really, really big. And other than just wearing it with jeans, I'm not quite sure how to bring the most out of it. I feel like maybe it could be cute with a really like a little mini skirt, so that there's a bit, it's not quite so heavy looking. That's the only downside to this, I feel, is that these big sweaters, I really like them, but they can kind of just look like you're got homeless vibes going. It's just so big and so oversized that it just looks like it doesn't fit. So I'm trying to avoid that, and I'm trying to go for the, oh, wow, she's so chic, look at her big sweater. So I don't know if I'm succeeding at that, but let me know the ways that you would maybe style this down below. And who knows, maybe I'll try to put a little video together of me attempting to do that so that I can give you all some inspiration for maybe how to style some of your knits. Because I really enjoy watching those too, as a side note. I think it's really fun to see what people make, but it's also really fun to see how people actually wear those things and see them out in the world wearing them. I guess I would say it's weird, but it's not weird really. It's you see and follow these people and these accounts, and you see the thing and maybe they even try it on, but then it's okay, well, I want to see it in the context of the real world. There's something different about that. So maybe I'll try to do that in the future and give you all hopefully a little bit of inspiration of how and where to wear your knitwear. So that is all for this episode. As far as the last month goes, we're in July. I haven't finished anything else. I'm working away at some of my other projects, and I will be coming up with another video soon to show you some of that. I bought some new yarn. I know. She said she wasn't going to buy any new yarn, and then she did, and it was such a good deal, though. I couldn't say no. And I think you'll all really like the patterns that I've selected. There's also some really fun news. I got reached out to on Instagram to do a book review for a designer that's affiliated with Unit 2. the Instagram account. And so they're going to send me a copy of their book pre-release to talk about it with all of you and give my thoughts on it. And they're also sending me a pattern to make from the book so that I can share that whole process with you. And I'm so excited because it's really like prompting me to make something that I never probably would have made like on my own. I think you're going to really like it, and I think it's going to be really pretty and like very feminine and dainty, which is not really like my aesthetic, I would say. Like I try to dress feminine, obviously, but it's very like cutesy and very delicate, which is not really my vibe, I guess. It's not the aesthetic on this channel, but I think you'll all really like it. I'm really excited to share that with you. So if you think you might be interested in that, stay tuned for that. I just, as always, I'm so grateful that I get to sit down and like hang out with all of you and feel like I get to catch you up on this part of my life, because I mean, I'm not kidding, like truly, like unless I'm at a festival or I go to a shop, right, with my mom or a friend of mine, like 98% of the time, like this is something I do on my own in my own time. It's not a hobby I share with anyone else really on the day-to-day. It's not something I talk about with other people usually on the day-to-day. And so this community has just been so lovely for that. I've just really loved getting to share things on Instagram and on YouTube. I think I'm just feeling extra special because the month of July, marks the 1 year mark of being on YouTube. I posted my first video a whole year ago. I remember when I posted that video, I didn't think it was going to go anywhere. I was like, screw it. Like, I'm just going to do it and see what happens. And then the whole algorithm of YouTube or whatever just picked it up. And then so many people like were just so kind. And I think that that's honestly my favorite part of this whole of this part of the internet, like specifically the knitting, crocheting, sewing. I think that whole vibe of the internet, that whole niche on the internet and on Instagram is just so really for the most part, like so kind. And there's not really any drama ever that I see. Like I don't see people leaving nasty comments on videos or on Instagram posts. Whereas like there's other niches that people are a part of online where people are just like truly awful. I'm like, how can you say something like that to this person that you don't even know? And so I'm just very grateful for that. And I would encourage anyone who watches this, don't fall into that. Like, don't even read the comments. Don't click on comments and read them and respond to them, because it just invites in like so much negativity that honestly I think that like we don't have that a lot, if it much at all, in this community. Like it's very welcoming. It's very easy to be a part of the knitting community. Like who's gonna not let you knit with them type of thing. But yeah, I just am very grateful for that, and I would encourage everyone to not fall into the drama. Like I've seen some people where it's like they're like almost like their whole thing is like talking about the drama between people or creators or different things. And I just think that's such a, like, what a waste. Like you have a platform and you have maybe even 10 people that watch you, and that's how you're going to use it. You're going to use it to like give your really pretty uninformed opinion because you weren't there physically, to perpetuate whatever drama there might have been that didn't involve you. So that's my I'm going to get off my soapbox now. All of that to say, I'm very grateful that that's not here. And I hope it stays that way forever. I love hearing from everybody. I love talking to everybody every time I post. And I love like the support that we're able to give each other on Instagram as well, because I'm a bit more active regularly on there. So I hope that you're getting to make all the things that you want to make. I hope that you're living your best life this summer and not taking any shit from anybody and just doing you and making the stuff that you want to make and having the best time. Yeah, I hope that for everybody. So with that, you know, I'm gonna go. I hope you liked this. Bit of a tangent at the end there, but whatever. That's me for you. And I hope to see you all in the next one. And stay classy. Bye.